Welcome to Reaching New Heights with Troy Bell, the city manager, city of Muskegon Heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know. So thank you again for tuning in. I am technically out of the office today, but joining you from a remote location here at home. So I'm excited to be able to connect with the viewers today. And again, thank you for everybody that tuned in the past and has made many and multiple comments. Again, a reminder, haven't talked about this much since we've been rolling for the last year and a half, but make sure that we keep things positive and keep things rolling because the city of Muskegon Heights is, in fact, moving in a positive direction. Things are happening. And so we have a packed full show for us here today. Yeah, we're going to have Joe Rohn join us at 2 p.m. We have Vince joining us at 2:15. We have hopefully Marquise will be able to join us at 2:30. And hopefully Phyllis will be Loudermill will be joining us at 2:45. But before we get that started, I know everything kicked off here at 2 o'clock, and hopefully everybody will be able to tune in via the link that was sent out. But I do want to give us a quick update on our council meeting. Our next council meeting will be November 4th. That's the second Monday in November. Our council meetings are the second and fourth Mondays of every month. So the next council meeting will be the second Monday in November. That's November 14th. Prior to that, though, I want to encourage everybody to come out and vote on November 8th. That's election day, and the most important thing in exercising our rights is the ability to cast that vote. If you haven't already done so via absentee, please make sure that you do it before November 8th and no later than November 8th, because there are so many things that will impact us, several referendum that we have to decide on, people that we have to vote for, and we need to show up at the polls, because if we don't show that strength at the polls, we will not be heard, and that is the voice. A vote is a voice, and a voice is a vote. So make sure on November 8th, you don't forget, first thing in the morning, if you got to go to work late or if you have to be excused from work early, make sure that you get out and vote. Just a few quick other announcements. I want to point out that, and one of these is relevant to our guests here today, but 4 projects that we have that are out there that are in various stages of kicking off or starting. We have Herco that is building the first new development that is on the corner of Delano and Ray Street. We have a house that's already underway, which is our first house, which is on the corner of Hume and Jarvis. But the first development is beginning, and that is hopefully going to be 29, 30 some odd homes in the next year and a half. So that is advantageous, that is aggressive, and we're excited about that. On the corner of Peck and Sherman, we have Jerome's project that's there, and we'll come back to that because Mr. Rowan is joining us here. Then we have the pavilion that's kicking off down at Mona Lake. That lease for that facility is about a year and a half in the making, and hopefully they're going to do wonderful things down there. And then we also have Leahy Street. So the reconstruction of Leahy Street is beginning here in the fall, where they're going to be ripping up the asphalt and putting down a new course of base and prepping that not only on Leahy Street, but also on the street right next to that, Reynolds Street. So the completion of that project. So we're excited that those two should be completed here in the winter, and then they'll come back in the spring and pave it. But also as part of that, we are beginning the lead service line replacement, and that is a huge project for us. The state mandate that we do at least 5% a year for the next 20 years, and we have about 3,800 residences. So we're shooting for 190 lead service lines a year. It's an unfunded mandate, so we're depending on grants in order to do that. We are mandated by the state to do it. And fortunately, we've been successful in going out and pursuing grants and succeeding in getting grants. And so in this first year, we were successful in getting grant money as part of the $7 million project, and that will allow us to replace 540 lead service lines over the course of these projects. And that's starting with Leahy Street. So we should have new lead service lines in Leahy Street, and also a new road, and also in Reynolds, the same thing. So all the lead service lines will go in as we're doing the road work. And so one cut and we should be complete. So I'm excited about that. And then in addition to that, we have news cameras that are going up as part of our camera grant. That was a $150,000 grant, and that is in motion. We've already ordered the servers for that. And so we're excited about being able to deploy those throughout the community. And you should be hearing more from the mayor and from the council about that. Our first responders recruitment grant for both our police department and our fire department is underway. That again is another $100,000 grant that we were successful in pursuing and getting, and that will help us pay to send people to the academy and also pay for recruitment incentives. In addition to that, we have the new vehicles that you see out there on the lawn. Those were just the first two. You got 3 more coming on Thursday, and so this cycle of being able to replace vehicle after vehicle has already begun, and I'm excited to be able to display those out there on the pavement in front of City Hall. We have, in addition to that, I mentioned the lead service lines, but also the Rowan Park splash pad. That grant, $250,000, you'll be hearing more about that. We've already received the funding for that, so very excited that is underway. So with that, I would like to, that's our little overview of all the things that are happening, going on, and a number of those items are going to be on the agenda. And I almost forget that on the agenda coming up on November 14th is a question for us to be able to complete a contract with the county to assist us with cleaning up our books and putting together our assessing contract, assessing and equalization. And so excited that we're moving forward. The work that was done by Mr. Jackson and in his office was tremendous, but was just with a little support that he had working part-time, did not allow for us to address the full span of what was needed in order to assess the properties here in Muskegon Heights. That does not mean that your taxes are going to be going up, but it does mean that we will finally get an accurate assessment of the value of our property. And there's a big difference between taxable value and assessed value. And so what we're talking about with this contract that we're going to enter into, hopefully with the county, and we'll be able to clear up the books and get an accurate assessment of what our property is and our property value is. And so that is on the agenda, along with some other items like fire support, the snow plowing, snow equipment for the winter, the fire contract. So please tune in November 14th for that. And with that, I want to go ahead and welcome Mr. Roan to the show. Sorry about the updates, but welcome to the show, Mr. Roan. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about you and your background. I know we only have about 15 minutes, but I would like for our listeners who don't know you, I know several of them do because you're hometown grown. Tell us a little about who you are and the fact that you're joining this show.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, thank you for having me. My name is Joe Roan. I'm a Muskegon Heights native, born, raised. I've lived in Iowa for the past 22 years.
Ouch.
And,
sounds cold.
It is, but it's about as cold here.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so when I embarked upon this project, I started planning my move back to the Muskegon Heights area. So I am now an official Muskegon Heights resident. I purchased the property here, and so I'm back into our community where I can.
Now, where did you go to high school, Joe?
I went to Muskegon Heights High.
So you're high. Tiger. All right. Okay. Just want to make sure.
83. But yeah, so working on this project is, really close to my heart. My mother's been in business in the hikes for over 50 years. And this is something, I kind of toyed around with it as a kid, never, thought the opportunity would present itself. And so we have the opportunity to bring this mixed use community to
Now, where is the project at?
It's
Tell us
on the
where
corner of Peck and Sherman,
right.
2544 Peck Street. And it's formerly the LA Insurance. Most people will know it by that, the LA Insurance building. And it covers the first quarter of the block from Peck Street over to Maffitt Street. So that's the development platform that we're looking for.
Okay. And so that's that property there, and folks have been driving by that for many, many years. How long has that property been in various stages of closure?
Well, there are two buildings that haven't been utilized for over 17 years.
Wow.
And one was the Shepherd's Dry Cleaners, and it's considered to be a brownfield, which I'm not sure everyone knows what a brownfield is, but it's contamination from the solvents and the cleaners, the cleaning solvents that they used on the clothing. And the building was built in 1914, which they didn't have the same types of sewage and drainage systems that we do today. So a lot of that contaminated the ground level. We've been working with Eagle, and Eagle awarded us a grant to do the demolition and to do the remediation of the site.
So I want to stick a pin in that and talk about that grant. So you were working together with the city and successfully were able to pursue and receive that grant. How much was that?
We received $1 million from Eagle.
$1 million.
One key thing you said there is working with the city. And thank you again, Troy, for all the time you put in to help us get to that award.
My pleasure.
It seems like a lot of the community, now that I'm back, seems like they feel that it's stalled, but it's not stalled. There's been a lot of work going on the inside of the building. Again, the building was built in 1914, so we have to do some removal of asbestos and all
hazardous materials.
Yeah, it hazardous materials. So that the fences have gone up. So we have some really good news that we're looking to start on Monday, the 31st. With the actual demolition.
This Monday?
This
Monday. The 31st. Okay.
So you may not see you may see the equipment on site, but the guys will be working on the rooftop because they have to hand remove part of the roof, which is contaminated before they can actually start tearing the brick and mortar portion.
Now that was one of the delays that you ran into, if I'm not mistaken. Originally, you thought it was just the hazardous materials inside, the asbestos, the tile, piping, etc. But then you ran into asbestos in the roof, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, that one of the things that delayed you in the process, having to go back to Eagle, get approval for a new process, and then execute that process to remove that hazardous materials before you could begin the full-scale demolition.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It did cause us a mild delay. We're still looking at. Excuse me. If we in the next 45 days, we still have, after we get it torn down and the demolition takes place, we'll have 45 days where we still have to go in and do some testing, groundwater and things like that. They're going to remove, I believe, approximately 300 metric tons of sand from the plot.
Okay.
And, that's going to be a lot of work for us to get that out of there. Get the vapor system. We're putting in a vapor barrier system, so we have to do the planning of that. And hopefully we'll still reach our target of July. The architects and the construction company feel that if we can, in the next 45 to 60 days, we still can get some work done, moving towards being prepared, after the winter, to be able to go full force and full speed into the construction side.
Now, I understand, and I'm beginning to learn. I've been in this community for 3 years, and yes, my contract is still in place for those people who had questions about it. It's 3 years from the date that I went full time, so I didn't go full time until January. So my contract is not up until January. But in those 3 years, I have learned that there have been many, many promises made about things that were woulda, coulda, should have happened here in Muskegon Heights. And so I'm beginning to have an appreciation for the understanding that when the promise that this building was going to be torn down and the promise that something beautiful was going to be built in this place, that people were, typically skeptical about these promises because they've been promised so many things before that never happened. Is this just another one of those promises that was set to happen that's never going to happen?
No, not even close.
Okay.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you this project is definitely happening. I literally uprooted myself and my family to move back here
Okay.
to make sure that we,
So you're serious about
move
this?
Yes. And I'm in the process of graduating two daughters. I have twin daughters, and they're graduating from high school, and so I have to travel
Man.
back and forth and still be a father and a
Right.
developer at the same time.
Well, I
But
could definitely.
this is happening. I wouldn't have put my family in this situation, my
Mhm.
financials in this situation, and I would
Right.
not put the community on the edge of their seats. It's coming.
Okay. And I am one of those people that's on the edge of my seat because as much as we collaborated on getting that $1 million, I know that $1 million was just the beginning of what is the ultimate development there. And how much is the total development? Share that with our listeners.
Well, we're looking at close to 5 million for the project. And
Right.
again, like you said, that first million came from Eagle in regards to, the demolition and remediation side. But we're
Mm-hmm.
continually working with the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, on the build side. So
Okay.
we're looking to facilitate with the MEDC some additional grant funding on the build side. So mind you,
Beautiful.
in our community, this is a if not for, and that means if not for the grants processes and the things
Mm-hmm.
that the MEDC and Eagle are doing for us, a
Mm-hmm.
private investor, let alone myself, would
Well,
not
no.
be able to take on such a project, and that's because of the size of the cleanup,
Right.
and not necessarily the construction side.
Mm-hmm.
That can pan itself out, but to be able to gather and get the monies available for the cleanup. That was key and very important to what
Right.
we're doing here.
Yeah, I know that in several communities in this area on the lakeshore, they've undergone the cleanup, but in particular, Muskegon Heights was a community where people felt like they could come in and do whatever they needed to do in order to get their business up and running, and with a total disregard for the environment, total disregard for the impacts that they had on sustainability. And so that means that there's even more that we have to do in order to get up and running as a community on the lakeshore, like these other more affluent communities around us on our borders. So I appreciate the work that you did in collaboration with the city in order to jumpstart us with that money from Eagle. Can you share with us what is going to be there once it's done?
Well, we're looking at a mixed-use community.
Mm-hmm.
The current plans call for roughly 11 new retail spaces on the lower level,
Okay.
and we're in conversations about maybe a third level, but there may be a 4-story building instead of a 3-story building, which
Okay.
will have apartment units in it.
Excellent. Excellent. And when do you think when do you see the building coming down before you begin to build back up again? When is that structure slated to be gone?
That entire structure,
Mm-hmm.
once they start on the 31st, it should be gone within 7 days. The entire structure should be gone.
Okay.
And then we
after
move
that,
into I'm sorry.
and then after that is the removal of the contaminated material, right?
Contaminated material and the further environmental testing with
Gotcha.
Eagle and West Shore Engineering is a really important part to what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very good environmental engineer by the name of Joe Boland, and he has been really an
He's been
advocate
awesome.
for what we're doing here.
Fabulous. Well, I appreciate you introducing this because as much as I talk about this project coming, you are real and in the flesh. And I wanted people to have the opportunity to be able to see you, to talk to you, if there was any questions, to be able to chat to you. So thank you for coming. I want you to come back again and spend time with us. But I do want you to give a shout out as we wrap this up to the firm that is going to do the demolition. What's the name of that firm?
Melching Demolition.
There
They're actually located here in Muskegon Heights on Airline Road. So they're
Wow.
part of our community as well. And, you know, I'm actually trying to show my hand a little. I'm trying to get them to bring out what I call Big Mac, which is a very, very large dump truck to give the community an opportunity to come by, talk to us further in person, and have their kids take pictures, on the site with the dump truck so that we can start vocational conversations again within our community. So this is twofold for me to celebrate with the community the start of the demolition and ribbon cutting, but it's also to start the dialogue in regards to what can we do with the kids looking right outside their window at this construction going on. I have all these engineers, all these, all these construction workers, and they're really ready to participate in whatever we can, put together with the school, the city, and all interested community organizations to come in and talk about the construction industry and the opportunities that that avail themselves when you get the right trade behind you.
Beautiful. Well, I encourage you to the extent that you can, and I know that everything is preliminary and things are in motion, but we do have that project on the corner of Hume and Jarman that is its first new house, and it is a collaborative project with the CTE program, Career Technical Education Program, that allows for not only what you're trying to do, which is train people from our community in the trades that participate in the process of the deconstruction and the construction. But these are young people from our community and surrounding communities that are in high school that are learning about the trades and trying to get their certifications for construction. Because let me tell you, we got over 1,000 vacant lots. And so there's a lot of construction coming to the city of Muskegon Heights. And so to the extent that we can have the young kids get certified and be part of that construction and then be able to buy some of those homes, I mean, that is the dream that we're shooting for Muskegon Heights, the Mecca that we're shooting for with Muskegon Heights. And I see it, I know you see it, and that's why that you're bringing this project to the community. And this is just the start, right?
Yes, it is. We have other things that we're planning, but I'm trying to, keep at pace so that we can make sure that this one goes off or at least get started. There's going to be some overlap there, but once we get this one going, it's kind of an autopilot right now, but we got to get ourselves back in control to, once we get to the construction phase and move it right along. But yeah, we have some other things that are exciting that we are planning for the city of Muskegon Heights. And all I can say is everybody get ready for the ride.
Sweet. I like it. Well, it's all part of reaching new heights, whether it's getting ready for the ride or getting ready for the results. It's all part of reaching new heights. So I appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing for our community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bell.
Thank you for joining us. And so we're going to try technology-wise to transition from Mr. Roan joining us here to welcoming Vince to the program. And you're welcome to stay with us or to drop off Mr. Roan, because I'm sure we're going to have some comments. So is Vince here with us now? Can we bring him on the show? There we go. And welcome to the show, Mr. Argona. So
thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. And just one shout out on a previous segment to Mr. Roan. Thank you, Ms. Vines, for your comments about the awesome news about what's happening at the corner of Peck and Sherman. And thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your comments about our efforts to include working with kids and apprenticeships for the programming. So having said that, thank you, Mr. Argona, for joining us. And why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then I would like to segue into what your company has done in terms of pursuing a grant with and on behalf of Muskegon Heights and what that grant is all about. So let's start off with about you.
Sure thing. Well, thanks. I'm Vince Aragona. I'm the founder, CEO, president, chief cook and bottle washer in network development.
Mhm.
Started the company about 10 years ago. I've been in this space since 1982. So
Mhm.
been around since, well, the reason they used to call cell phones a brick was because they were about the size of a brick and they weighed as much as a brick. And that's how long I've been in this space, is, from the earlier
Yes.
cellular. But I've been
I'm,
involved in technology now for almost 40 years. 10
I'm
years.
sad to say that I remember those days when they were bricks. So keep on going.
Those were the days where I was actually still climbing towers and splicing
Mhm.
fiber cables out of a bucket truck and then those types of things. But really had a amazing ride and a great opportunity to see how the technology's been evolving across the board. Amazing things, a single fiber optic cable now that's about the size of a horse's hair now carries
Mhm.
traffic as a copper cable that's 60 feet in diameter. So really, really amazing. Your mobile phone now is capable of supporting as much computing power as an entire data center did 20 years ago. So
Well, it's amazing.
it really is. It's truly amazing. And so when we look at technology, we look at infrastructure, we really look at it from the perspective of how does technology help benefit the community? How does it really help support economic development, and really help digital equity and inclusion? So it was kind of interesting. We were focusing most of our time and energy, and we got to know you initially. Was
Mhm.
really about helping you and the community develop and market your infrastructure base to attract wireless technology. It was,
Right.
how do we leverage your water tanks, your rooftops, your poles, and your right of way, which is where a
Mhm.
lot of the smart technology is now headed. And how do we help you to not only attract the technology and benefit the community, but generate a non-taxpayer revenue stream from that?
Right.
But when you look at technology as a whole, there are really only four things that any service provider needs. They need poles, power, permits, and fiber optic cable to connect it all together. And with that, you can basically host any type of advanced or emerging technology. So while I think everyone looks at it as residential and enterprise broadband, everybody needs an internet connection to their home and business. What we're really looking at is the entire ecosystem of technology that's coming down the road. So
Mhm.
everything from public safety, security, intelligent transportation systems, autonomous and connected cars, um, all sorts of law enforcement, from public safety, surveillance, gunshot detection. So basically, with that architecture in place, with fiber, power, permits, you can host any type of technology. And it was really exciting and interesting working with you and your community when these grants started to come up under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Uh,
Mhm.
we really started talking about this as, your community really uh, is the perfect test bed for some of these new innovative technologies. And so when we really looked at Muskegon Heights, we said, well, the biggest problems that we see with broadband is either people don't have it, they don't have access to broadband, which is mostly a rural problem.
Mhm.
They have access to broadband, they can't afford it. And
Right.
when we really looked at the makeup and the take rates, for example, for broadband, we were surprised to find that less than 60% of your residents and businesses have a broadband connection.
Mhm.
So our analysis really discovered that it was an affordability problem. Even with subsidized programs in place, the Affordable Connectivity Program, for your listeners that aren't participating in that program today, I would encourage you to sign up for that. It'll help you reduce your bill by about $30 a month. But because the bills, have gone much higher now you're paying 60, 80 more dollars per month. It doesn't really
Mhm.
help everyone. So when we started to look at your community and how we could leverage fiber optic networks, vertical infrastructure, connectivity as a whole, we came up with a really elegant solution, which was to build about 15 route miles of fiber, uh, use the existing rooftops, place some poles that look almost identical to a traffic signal pole in the right of way, connect,
Mhm.
install public Wi-Fi equipment, some commercial technologies, very low power, small form factor technology. And then by doing that, not only can we make the fiber available for all these amazing new technologies that are coming down the road, and also make it available for the commercial service providers to bring in 5G, we could provide cost-free and affordable for the entire community. And that's really how we framed up the grant and the application for the grant.
Excellent. And so, can you share with our listeners what is the amount that this grant that we're pursuing now?
Yes, sir. So the total project cost is just a little over 4 million, about 4.2 million. We're asking for 2.9 million in federal funds under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, the filing deadline was September 30th, and we only took on 4 clients. We filed 4, including the application for Muskegon Heights, and we're already getting feedback back from NTIA, who's administering the program, asking for updates and clarification. So it's moving much faster than we were expecting. We have a really good beat on, who ultimately is going to get it. It was about $1 billion fund. They call it a middle mile fund. And they already received applications of over $5.5 billion. So it just kind of demonstrates on a national level.
Billion with a B.
Yeah, B with a billion, right? So, so we're hopeful that we frame this up well and that we qualify. The next round of grants that are coming down the road is called the BEAD grants, which is about $42.4 billion in federal taxpayer funds. So the goal here really is to continue to work the program out. We'll build out the middle mile, which connects up the poles, infrastructure, and the right of way. We'll apply again for the next round of grants to actually bring fiber to the home. And working with you and the city, we've developed a plan to actually deliver fiber to the home over a period of time, which is really the end goal. That's really the brass ring that, with fiber to your home, you have unlimited capacity. And the best part about it is because we're working with you and the community, we can deliver fiber cheaper, faster, and the service that would be made available to the residents and businesses in your city would also be more affordable.
Right. And before I talk about what that means for us, tell us when you expect to hear back. What time frame do you think we'll get an answer on whether or not we were competitive or successful in getting one of these grants?
Speculating a little bit, just
sure.
But a crystal ball tells us that first quarter we should be hearing definitive word as to whether we're awarded the funds. Like I said, it's a bit oversubscribed at this point. The thing that I think works to our advantage is the process was so unimaginably complicated that I'm not sure all the 5.5 billion in applications would qualify. Very complicated process. But again, very, very confident that we'll hear back something first quarter. And there's other avenues that we're also pursuing to finance the network. Grants are one avenue, but I think there's others as well that we can explore.
Right. Well, the point that I wanted to make is sometimes our listeners don't realize the advanced work that has to take place, and we don't talk about it a lot. I'm not on this show every week talking about the fact that you were working on putting this grant together for the deadline of September 23rd, I think it was. But there's a lot of advanced work that you had to put in developing our relationship and the collaboration between the city and your company and looking at all the different options that are out there. This, of course, was one of those options, and being able to go after that and position ourselves in such a way that we can go after that. I don't know that our listeners know that because we don't talk about it, that this stuff starts 6 months, a year ago. And the results of this only begin to show themselves in the first quarter, maybe the second quarter of next year. So this is long range planning from beginning to end that is constantly going on behind the scenes that we don't ever have a chance to talk about. And so the important thing about, though, and I want to say this, that what it means to us, when I first came to the city of Muskegon Heights and you and I had this conversation, the small community that was underserved and overlooked, that was Muskegon Heights, that the only way that we were going to change that is we were able to leverage technology. And there was no reason why we couldn't leverage that technology to make Muskegon Heights the Mecca of the Lakeshore. And so your efforts in seeing that dream and realizing that dream and that vision and being willing to walk alongside of the city and myself is important, because not everybody was willing to do that. There were a lot of technology folks that were out there that said, we're going to go to the Muskegons, we're going to go to the Leadingtons, because that's where the money was, and not to communities like Muskegon Heights. But because we are Muskegon Heights, I think And because of our financial situation, which you talked about, and our proximity to rural communities, such as our proximity to Grand Rapids, position us in such a way that we are the prime entity that should get this technology. And where's this technology taking us? We're talking about broadband, and that is the connectivity of the future. Now, Wi-Fi was one thing. We had DSL back in the day, back when Bell Telephone was a thing. And I said to somebody spelling my name that, remember, it's just like Bell, the telephone company. And they looked at me like, what is Bell? What are you talking about? So
Right.
I dated myself, but I'm sure you know about it. But yeah, we had DSL, and then we had connectivity, we had cable. But where we need to be tomorrow, 10 years from now, is with broadband and fiber to the home. And so your grant is just one piece of that. That is the middle mile. But our ultimate objective that I want our people and our community to hear and see is to get fiber, not just the middle grant, but fiber to the home, so that every single house that we build and that 1,000 vacant lots becomes a smart home in Muskegon Heights. Every single home is fiber ready, has a drop, has a bell, a Ring doorbell, a security system, so that when we take our next step, we're stepping right 5 years, 10 years into the future of what people are looking for and want in the city of Muskegon Heights. And so,
Well, and I appreciate that. I'd love to take all the credit, but I can't. I mean, the big reason that we're working with Muskegon Heights is yourself. You know, broadband is unimaginably complicated, and of the 89,000 individual jurisdictions across the country, very few really have a broad enough understanding of what broadband means and what fiber optics means to the community. So we were lucky to have a partner working with you in particular, because we spoke the same language. And there is definitely a language barrier that exists. But the really exciting thing about this project is if the funds actually come through and we start construction, number one, it can accelerate the build. We're a private small company. We're very agile. The other thing is about 32% of all the homes in Muskegon Heights will be immediately addressable with fiber. So there'll only be
that's huge. That's huge.
That's huge. Yeah. And so we'll be able to not only provide a wireless rate of service that everyone can use cost free. So instead of, during the pandemic, I think everyone really realized how prepared we were. The kids didn't have connections at home. 40% of your K through 12 kids did not have a connection that they could rely on at home. And, in spite of everyone's best efforts, putting Wi-Fi on buses and kids trying to go, and sitting outside of a public library that was closed, or sitting outside of a fast food restaurant trying to tie into a connection so they could stay connected. That's no way to be,
And that's what we found. And I'm glad you brought up the pandemic, because that really accentuated the digital divide and how hard the digital divide hits a community like ours, and how far behind we are in the process. And what I see for a community of 11,000 residents is we should be able to, with a community of that size, take that leap into the future, so that our students now want to come to the city of Muskegon Heights, because they know that they're going to have that connectivity, that they're going to have be on the front of the cutting edge of connectivity and of the digital divide, not behind it, but in front of it. And I think that's the opportunity with a community of this size, as small as we are, as big as we are, to be able to accomplish that. And that can't be accomplished unless you are working with us, and unless we are together going after those opportunities where that money is out there. And it is out there. It's out there for us. But you and understanding the complexity of the different solutions to working together with us are the opportunity to go after the middle mile, and then finally that fiber to the home opportunity. And that's where we want to go, with 1 meg up and 1 gig up and 1 gig down on our residential, and then our corporate or industrial areas be able to go 10 up and 10 down. That's where the future is 5-10 years from now.
Agreed. I mean, it's like your paycheck. No matter how much bandwidth you have delivered to your house, you're going to use every bit of it.
Right.
HDTV and all these different applications just use more and more bandwidth, and every 2 years the amount of bandwidth has doubled. The interesting thing was during the pandemic, in that 1 year period of time, more data was transmitted and received over the global networks than all data transmitted and received in the years prior combined.
Right.
I mean, it shows you how much data was actually being consumed. And I think, most folks agree, we want to keep the kids in school. But you can't allow it to happen again, that if something like that were to happen again, these kids be left without a connection. And this is a great way to not only provide a connection, and in some ways, the kids while they're in school can use the same connection while they're at home. Their same iPad, their same laptop. They're basically using the school's existing connection, but now they can use it on the bus going back and forth, to school. They can use that same connection at home, and it doesn't cost anything more. So the reason that we really like working with Muskegon Heights is because what we're doing is bleeding edge. It's a very, very innovative way of solving a problem. The major commercial broadband service providers don't want to see us providing a free service, right? Because it competes with their commercial interest. But the technology has gotten really, really affordable. Basically where we're installing small form factor equipment and antenna systems on your rooftops and on poles and your rights of way, we can basically provide a ubiquitous footprint for everybody in your community. And we could do it in a way that doesn't cost the taxpayers any additional dollars in operating costs, which is why you're in the perfect dimension as well. We're creating an ecosystem, and we're making it very transparent, and we want to make it a case study in innovation and a case study and how to solve a problem that doesn't necessarily involve just taxing the existing subscriptions to pay everyone's bills for a short period of time. That's just not a durable way to do it. So this is a way to leverage your existing assets, your infrastructure, to connect it all with fiber and provide connectivity for everyone, and then build a pathway to bringing fiber to the home.
Well, I would say as we wrap this up, because I know we still have to bring on Herco and Phyllis, but one thing I want to say, among other things, is that I learned when I was a school superintendent, my ability to reach beyond my doorstep, beyond my classrooms, beyond the campus of my facilities into the homes was my ability to improve the performance of my students when they came into my school. But I had to find a way to reach into the homes of my students. And that meant for us, one-to-one technology. That meant that we had to be, we could not be behind the digital curve. We had to be in the curve to be able to get computers into the houses of my students. And I realized it wasn't just about my students, even though that was important, but it was about the health of my entire household that I was servicing. If I could get that computer into the household, it wasn't a computer that was just used for studying and for the work that was required of the school system, but it was also an opportunity for the people that were in that home to engage in medical health, to engage in phone access to health services, the other access to other community services, social services, was all around being able to get connectivity to that house and being able to get a system, a laptop in that house. And I think this is, when we think about the future, I want everybody to want to come to Muskegon Heights because they know that every house in Muskegon Heights is going to be a smart home. And if we realize that we have to touch every single home because of the state mandate that we talked about in the beginning of this session, that says that we have to replace the lead service lines in 3,800 residences, and every new residence has to have a new service line that is not lead. We already have to do that work. And if we can figure out a way, and I know that you're working on this, if we can figure out a way that we only have to visit every house once, because we have to visit them for this program, but if we could visit it once and do the lead service line and the fiber to the home drop, those two things will put us ahead of the learning curve, but put us ahead of the digital curve in Muskegon Heights. And I think that's the key that makes us different.
No, I think you're right. I mean, there's a very capital efficient way to deliver fiber to every home. Lots of different projects taking place, lots of funds available. for capital efficiencies and things like that. And maybe we'll save it for the next time you invite us onto the show. I think we'll have a solution for you. On that
I'm
as
looking forward to it.
But I don't think you could have said it better myself. I think, when you really look at, what are the things that hold folks back is, digital equity and inclusion, the ability to participate in telehealth, telemedicine types of services, be able to participate in a remote workforce, be able to look for better paying jobs on the internet, even digital literacy. It's hard to teach people how to use a computer if they don't have a connection. So the whole system feeds on itself. Bringing connectivity to every family gives them an opportunity to participate and make sure that the K through 12 kids, which is what we're really concerned about. We want to make sure every kid has an equal opportunity to participate in remote learning, and that this will help solve that problem.
Beautiful. Well, I look forward to you coming back to our show and welcoming you back with good news. And maybe we won't have to wait until the first quarter of the spring. Maybe you can give us an update sometime between now and then. But I do want our listeners to know as we wrap this up that you are keeping an eye on the future and that you are working with us to make that happen. And even though they might not see it every day, might not talk about it here on the show, this stuff is going on behind the closed doors, behind the scenes to make it happen. So I appreciate you, and we appreciate you for the work that you're doing in collaboration with the city. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And we're hopeful that when we're all done with this whole project, everyone in the country will be saying we're using the Muskegon Heights method for solving their problems. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
You too. You too. You too. Thank you. So let's go ahead and see if we can embrace this technology miracle one more time and bring Miss Phyllis on with us, because I don't think that we have Marquise with us. So there she is. See, technology is a wonderful thing, isn't it? So welcome, Miss Phyllis. How are you, Miss Laudermill?
Hey, I'm glad I was on that call because we're looking for a cost. So send Vince over our way. Our houses are going to be smart houses, and we're putting the smart ring. So anything that he can do to help us to take care of that cost, we greatly would appreciate a solution problem. We have been working with Jason Dixon out of Detroit. So if we got someone at home, most definitely bring it in. I'm all ears. I'm really giddy over here. So let's see what we can do to make that work.
That's our guy. That's your guy right there. So he's the one.
Well, let's put us together so we can connect.
Beautiful. Beautiful. But before we get into to talking with you, I do want to give a shout out to Miss Aubrey. Thank you so much for tuning in, Miss Aubrey. I got a chance to see your comments and your thanks for the information that we're sharing and your aspirations for what might be possible with our school district. And I didn't talk about it too much on this show. I've talked about it on previous shows, but with the school district, we have to figure out a way when we talk to the people that come from the mayor's office and the legislature, we have to figure out a way that we can get rid of that $43.7 million worth of debt over 2000, I guess at 43, or today it's 34.8, but we waited till 2043, it'd be 43.7. But we got to figure out a way to get rid of that debt, and that's going to be the beginning, well, I shouldn't say the beginning. Yeah, that will be the beginning of us taking account of our own destiny in this process. But I don't want to talk too much about that because that's a whole different show and a whole show in and of itself. But if you could just bear with me just a second, I want to bring Marquise on if he's here and have him make a quick announcement. Yep, there you are. Look at that. So I got Ms. Phyllis, Ms. Laudermill, and Mr. Childers at the same time. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you were able to make it. I didn't think you were going to be able to make it because I knew you were busy and on the Zoom call. But go ahead and share with our listeners before we slide into Ms. Laudermill's announcement, which I think they're connected. But talk about what you're joining our show for today. And who are you, by the way?
Oh, okay. Well, first, thanks for having me.
Welcome to Reaching New Heights.
Reaching New Heights. My name is Marquise Childers Jr., and I'm here as the chairman of the Muskegon Heights Business Association. I just have a quick announcement, and won't take too much of your time and allow them to get to that great important information. What we
Sure.
have going on is November 3rd, Thursday, November 3rd at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We will be hosting a business mixer, and it's going to be at the Us Cafe, 2300 Mathis Street, right in Muskegon Heights. We encouraging all our business to come out. If you're an aspiring business owner who has the thought of wanting to do it, we want you to come out as well. If you're at
Come on
these
out.
Black expos and the Buy Black, we want you to come out and get to these resources, as well as to get to know the business community within Muskegon Heights, and also grow our existing businesses that we have here in Muskegon Heights. So together
Mhm.
we can all reach those new heights that we want to see in our thriving community. And what better way than to create that renaissance, right, Mr. Bill?
Right.
That renaissance from within your city, so that way we can create that wealth and start to create that change within ourselves by us, and then we can ask that. No, not even ask. That would encourage outsiders to come in and invest. But first, we need to clean up our stuff and actually get people from being nervous or afraid to start that business. Let's come out.
Mhm.
You, the person that feel like, if you're listening and you feel like you don't belong, no, we're talking about you too. Come
Right.
out to the Us Cafe November 3rd. Again, November 3rd, Thursday, November 3rd, 6 o'clock to 7:30 at
Mhm.
the Us Cafe. Please be there. So,
Well, I would say you're a tremendous ambassador for the city, for the neighborhood associations, for the businesses in Muskegon Heights, and everywhere I go, you're there. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, the hard work that you're doing, and making sure that you show up. Because Coolidge put it best when he said that 95% of success is showing up. And the fact that you're there all the time is a testimony. And not only there, but bringing confidence with you, bringing the knowledge and the voice of the people in the streets and the neighborhood associations with you, because we need to be focused on how we can turn entrepreneurship into productivity. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about when you say on November 3rd, it's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Us Cafe, which is a tremendous success in and of itself.
yeah.
But that is another show, right? And we're gonna
Right,
have to
right.
figure out how to get you on a show too, because I appreciate you coming in to make an announcement. Well, we have to bring you in on a whole show so we can talk about all the different areas that you're involved in and associated with. So, but thank you so much for
Oh,
making
yeah.
that announcement. Anything
I
you want to add
appreciate
before we
you.
segue to Miss Phyllis? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, make sure you're there again
Mhm.
Thursday, 6 o'clock, 7:30, Us Cafe. We want to see those businesses grow. And
Excellent.
yeah, invite me out and I'll bring you a bottle of wine.
Oh, yes. So you keep talking about that bottle of wine. I'm waiting for it.
I got you.
All right. I
All
appreciate you,
right.
Marquise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So Miss Phyllis, talk to us. Tell me what you got to say and what you're here for, so that our listeners can appreciate every little bit, a nugget of wisdom that you have to drop for us.
I'll tell them to bring another bottle of wine.
Okay.
Make sure that Vince and I connect. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
First house that we're doing, because definitely smart house broadband is a conversation that's very not easy to have, and it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
to do. And you had brought it up earlier with me and my partners about not only that, making houses energy efficient. So again, thank you for staying on task of making sure that we're above the times that we're living in. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Not everybody sees it because it's not front and center all the time, but it's always behind the scenes, and we're always working on it. And thank you for the work that you do tirelessly of making that happen.
If you remember, not even last year, you was with us in Detroit when we rolled out the $1 million grant um,
Mm-hmm.
with broadband and with Chauncey Phillips and other players in Detroit. And so bringing that home has to be an ask. So most definitely, we're going to keep going in that direction. And thank you again for allowing us to do. And you're right, we're building a community. And we thank you for that,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can build. But, tomorrow is going to be a really exciting day. We're
Okay.
We're doing young men, black man on duty. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist is going to be in our city. He will be in Muskegon Heights on tomorrow at 4 o'clock till
Sweet.
5:30. He's going to be in the circle. I think that's called, it's by the Hideaway. What is that circle?
Are you talking about Rowan Park or the farmer's market?
He's right in this circle pad, the little circle pad right by
the Pocket Park, right next to the Hideout.
Yeah, it's going to be there. And what we're going to do, we're going to do a walk across the street so that we can come to City Hall and we can actually get people registered to do their absentee ballot to vote. And even though it's around voting, that's what this is about. But more so, I think it would be safe to say that Lieutenant Governor's ask is he's about black men on duty, black men in our community. What is our focus? What is our vote without and making sure we have a purpose, making sure we have an agenda. So tonight is our first think tank. We're going to be online with black men in this community, talking about some things that we're going to be asking on tomorrow, because, we need an agenda, but we need an outcome. And not just voting to be voting. We're going to talk about some real things like where's the money? How does the process, like events that's bringing in broadband. How does that work for black businesses? Things that's struggling with Joe. Why is it a struggle? We know it is because even in development for me, a lot of times, sometimes when we're on the outside and we don't look at all those dollars that have to come to make up these projects, it can be very difficult. So his Black Man on Duty was just that, to hear a voice from black men. Although all men are invited, all women are invited, it was really to have an agenda from a black community, from a black perspective, and giving black men a voice to step up. Because it seems though, when we did the numbers, black men are low voters, and we need to get them out. We want to know why you're voting, want to know what your issue is and what do you want. And so that's what's going to be happening in your city tomorrow.
Well, I hope we can work into that conversation, getting rid of our school debt. That $43.7 million should be part of that agenda. In addition to pushing our county commission to make the investments in Muskegon Heights around the usage of their American Rescue Plan money. That their investment in Muskegon Heights should be at least somewhere in the $7 million range, because everything that they've spent so far, I know it's internal, they're working on their systems and structures and such, happens to be an investment right there in the city of Muskegon because that's the county seat. But they also have to know that they have a responsibility to the outlying areas, and specifically Muskegon Heights as that community that is the most vulnerable space with the most vulnerable people should be one of the focus points of the investment of that American Rescue Plan money. And when I talk about $7 million, there's a lot that could be done if the county commission invests that money in Muskegon Heights, as well as gets behind our conversation asking for the elimination of the school debt, that $43.7 million. So hopefully that'll be part of the conversation when we set up an agenda.
Well, one of the things tonight on our call, you're right, is having the fact that we're going to have one voice. What we realized and assessed, I'm probably the girl in the group, but I'm passing the baton because one of the things is that we learn from each other. And so I'm learning to let men do what men do, women do what women do, and recognize we can do very well together if we use the tools. And so this conversation, there are people from across the state, and we were saying, in our communities, we need to join in with people like you in other cities to say, hey, what is the agenda? And we have one voice. If we start that one voice, one people, kind of like what we do at NAACP, I think that you're going to find that communities are going to listen to us. So those men are very eager to start in that directive. We talked about this morning, one bring one on. Go get your friends, because we recognize they cannot do it by themselves. So they're going to be contacting you, your mayor, and other people. And more than anything, as young people and some seniors, is how to eliminate a space, learn how to on and not be afraid. We talked about elections. Why the question always was, we weren't ready. How did we get missed? And I said, I'm very apologetic for all of us that this time when this was when I say election with redistricting and Renaissance, this was our ticket to put brown people in position. And I apologized to them because we were in position to recognize that they were there waiting to get that baton passed. And here we are at the voting table. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us that's not there. And that question was, how did they not get asked? Why are we having these conversations about what we have today?
Mm-hmm.
So we had it yesterday. And I'm hoping that would never, ever be a question asked again.
I understand. Well, I believe the conversation that you're anticipating for tomorrow are incredibly important conversations for the right audience that needs to be part of it and needs to be the subject of that right then and there. And so, again, the time and place, you're talking about the Park at what time tomorrow?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
5:30.
Mm-hmm.
There's a meet and greet, and we have a program, of course, and our mayor will be welcoming people to this community, and Pastor Burrell will be there. So we've made the attempt to include men in this community, but also men that are grassroots people too, so that we can have time passing. So it's going to be a really good day. He was here, maybe 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks, 2.5.
He was down here by the lake, and there was a lot of questions asked, like
Right.
where, and so I appreciate Lieutenant Garland for this across the state. They were in Grand Rapids last week, so they're going all over. But I think the official ask that we've gotten together for the think tank, we've done it here, and we're going to move to the state so that people will start joining in with us, because that money that you want to go away, we can't do that by ourselves.
No,
we're going to need our communities to join in with us with that ask. We're going to need powerhouses. We're going to need people to really get together. And so we talk about school board. We can't have two sides. You're going to have to come together as one to get in, because anything with two heads is really kind of weird, and it doesn't really get a point across. You know why? Because you're not speaking the same language. And so when we keep that type of behavior going in our communities, it's very difficult for people to hear us. That makes sense?
That does. We got to have one God, one people, one voice.
And that's
how we get heard.
Yeah, we're and now they say, well, who's who and what board is what, and that's confusion that we did.
Right. And we don't even want to talk about that. We want to have one voice, whatever it takes for us to come together.
And so it doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's the same voice, that we want the debt to go away. We want our city to grow. And so that's where I think that Black men on duty can do that. They can be that common denominator, you know what I mean, to bring it all together. And that they speak one voice, and we would join in with them in this community, so that we'll walk circumspectly with them. And that's really the goal.
Well, I want to thank you for not only the work that you're doing with building our first housing development, the company and the joint ventures that you're bringing together, the collaboration, because that is quintessential critical work to rebuilding this community one home at a time, one development at a time, and reconstituting our tax base, which is going to allow us to provide the services. It's going to allow us to pave the streets. It's going to allow us to be the city that the people of Muskegon Heights deserve this city to be. So thank you for that work. But at the same time, I don't know how you find the time to do it. Thank you for the efforts that you're putting together and being part of the Lieutenant Governor coming to visit, and the conversations associated with that, and the need for that one voice, and the need for that agenda that includes the city, that includes the elimination of the debt, and that includes the request from the county ARPA commission on ARPA to put that $7 million into the city of Muskegon Heights. And so with that, I'm going to wrap us up. I know we're overtime today. We were supposed to finish 6 minutes ago. So these were important topics, and I'm glad that we took the time to bring it together, even though if we went overtime, because it's important. But I want to thank you for joining us with Reaching New Heights. with Troy Bell, the city manager, City of Muskegon Heights, where you get to know what you need to know.